here. It really is such an honor and pleasure to see so many amazing faces in the crowd from all across York Region. And I just want to say this is a York Region-wide event. We are trying as a Little Caucus in York Region to host different events and take turns doing that. To be sure that we bring people from across the region. So much of what we do and so much of your organizational work is done not just within the boundaries of our electoral boundaries, go figure, but throughout the communities. So this is one of those occasions, and I just wanted to start by introducing our host, Mayor Marci, who is going to then introduce the speakers on the stage and our MPs. But I want to thank the town of Aurora. They are so great at having community events and having great partners working with us to be sure that we are able to come together and to celebrate all of these different days. And for me, none is much fun or so exciting as International Women's Day. I have to say I have a particular bias for International Women's Day. So thank you to all you ladies for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Leah, and thank you so much, Your Worship, for having us here, for hosting us. And it's terrific to be here with my York Region Caucus. As Leah said, we've been really working together as a team, York Region, because so many of the issues that we all face and that our communities face are ones that aren't bound, as Leah says, by our electoral boundaries, but in fact it is a region. It's terrific to be here with all of my colleagues. It's a joy that I get to also be here with Minister Ian. She and I sort of messaged each other this morning and said, are we really at the same event together? Because, oh my God, if that's the case, how wonderful is that? And of course, to be here with the three speakers, each of your stories I know is going to help all of us learn and understand your experiences, and more importantly, how we all work together as women and as community leaders to advance what I know we all are seeking to advance, and that is the equal participation of women in Canada, in our society here, and through our leadership. I think the world, which of course Marci is going to represent Canada at the World next week. Let me also echo the Indigenous acknowledgement, that you started with. I think it's just so important to always recognize that as immigrants, settlers on this land, that Indigenous peoples have always been here, and that we all have a role to play in reconciliation. I thought what I would do is in fact, what I was going to do was compliment what Marci was going to say, but since I'm starting off, you're going to sort of get this little snippet part first, and get a much sort of more fulsome part from both my York Region colleagues as well as Minister Ian. But I get to work with a team in the government led by Prime Minister Trudeau and all of my exceptional colleagues here in the York Region and my cabinet colleagues, where really the focus on creating an economy that works for all Canadians is what I would say is on my mind every day and probably every hour of the day. It's the file that I get to work on, and as it relates to women, one of the most remarkable and probably proudest moments that I have in the job that I get to do day to day, it is about the economic participation of all Canadians, but it has to include women in our economy. So when we head into International Women's Day and we get to celebrate, we get to talk about the challenges, but we also get to celebrate the progress that has been made. I often get an opportunity to talk about the Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy. It's what I get to lead as the Trade Minister and the Small Business and Economic Development Minister for Canada. And what is it and why do we need it? Only 16% of Canadian businesses are women-led and women-owned. 99% of businesses in this country are small and medium-sized businesses. 16% is not enough. So the mandate that the Prime Minister has given to me is to double that number and to work as hard as I can with all of you and many other women across the country to do this. So for the very first time in 2018, we launched the first ever Women's Entrepreneurship Strategy. It's a $6 billion investment. What's the return on that investment? $150 billion in the Canadian economy. And when Canadian women do well, when our small and medium-sized businesses are growing all across our communities, it means it's jobs, it means it's livelihoods, it means it's prosperity for our community. So it is a genuine pleasure to be able to work on this, and I will just single out two really important initiatives that are part of the government's investment in the women's entrepreneurship strategy. One is called Ella. I don't know those, but it's operated in York University. I see some nodding heads, so people know Ella. And Ella is an accelerator that is there to help women get the supports that they need to grow and to start to grow their business. And then the second one is Adventure Lab. And I know that there are nodding heads here at Adventure Lab. I mean, and here it is called Tech Undivided for women tech founders to grow their businesses, because we know the gaps that are there for tech founders in particular. Both of these are terrific, but they make up an entire ecosystem of supports for women entrepreneurs across the country. The women's entrepreneurship strategy is three parts. One, helping women get access to capital. Number two, ecosystems of support like Ella and Tech Undivided here in your region. And number three, it's actually having the data to understand where we're doing well and where we need to improve. So it's really, really terrific, and the early data, which is very, very encouraging. Through Canada's ecosystem and through this entrepreneurial strategy, 10,000 women-owned businesses have started. 12,000 women-owned businesses that were looking to grow have grown because of this support. I won't say much more other than how terrific it is to have the privilege to be able to serve all of you and to serve with my colleagues in government. And Leah, thank you for being a terrific women MP here in the New York region. And we get to do a lot of this work along with all of our allies who are here. We can't do this work without each other. But more importantly, with all of you who are in this room, you are the community leaders. You are those business leaders. You are the women leaders in our community that makes the difference every single day. And it's my honor and privilege to be here with all of you. And happy International Women's Day, week, month, year, etc.
24% of parliamentarians are women. We need 50%, maybe 60, but at least 50. In Canada, we're over 30% now. Thanks to it was your by-election, we're over 30%, but we need 50%. We need to be represented as we are represented in society. And this Women's Day is about the theme is every woman counts. So I'm not going to call out names because every woman in this room counts. And I know I've met and spoken to many of you individually before and worked with you. And it doesn't matter whether you're a student or a CEO, whether you're a frontline worker or whether you're an executive director of a not-for-profit. Every woman in this room counts, and we all need to count. Every woman around this globe needs to count. But as a daughter, and I know all of us in this room have mothers, there is one woman I have to call out, because my mother, Kate Taylor, is sitting in this room this morning. Today, if we were not for her and her example. So thank you, Mom. With that, I want to turn it over from the politicians to our featured speakers. And I'd like to start with our guest speakers who are here today and then wrap up with Minister Ian at the end to reflect on what was said by the women who are here. I know, Minister Ian, you need to leave. I'm sorry, but thank you for being here. And as I said, it's very unusual to have two ministers in a room together, two women ministers, so we really appreciate it. So take care. I'd like to invite Lily Curzon to speak first. Lily is someone I've gotten to know over the last few years and is a remarkable woman. She has lived her own story, as many women, and she is now working to help women in our region and beyond. And I invited Lily this morning because I wanted to talk a little bit about the role women are playing around the world and some of the struggles that are happening now and the unique challenges that are facing women. So, Lily, thank you so much. Thank you for being here, and over to you. It's on, sir. Yeah, there you go.
so much, Leah, for inviting me. The first thing that I want to say, I had a crazy idea one day, 9 years ago, that I want to be a politician. And I ran for the nomination for the Liberal Party, which I don't know why I did it, because it came hard on me for the glass ceilings that we will talk about it later, hopefully one day, because this is a thing that we need to talk about. But I want to specifically appreciate Leah for role modeling the place that she's sitting. If I want to be a politician one more time in my life, which I don't think so at this point, I want to be Leah. Leah brought herself, not the patriarchal system with her. She came as a woman to our riding, where I live. And it's so important for me to be here in my riding today to celebrate International Women's Day. Also, Leah played such an instrumental role during the last 6 months after Iran's women's life revolution started. Leah not only was a politician, ally for many Iranian women in this riding, but also was a friend, was an inspiring voice, was a person that I could reach out personally to her, to lean on her emotionally, even if it was 2 a.m. I really appreciate it. Also, I would like to appreciate all the Caucus members today, and also the Mayor of Aurora, that we met in many occasions for flag raising, but it's a pleasure to be here in the chamber. Thanks for hosting us. We need to work together for sure to make this happen. Gender equality is not a subject that we talk about it and we go home and we forget about it. International Women's Day is a very important political day all around the world. It's not the day that we celebrate and we forget. Let me tell you something. In many occasions, like as a woman, as an immigrant woman who came to Canada, and my job is gender equality, and that's my expertise, every day, and the last time was yesterday, that somebody asked me, what is your title? And I was gender equality expert, and she was like, do you have any other title? So with being gender equality expert, it seems I'm making everybody uncomfortable. I'm pushing everybody outside their comfort zone with saying that my title and my expertise is gender equality. It's like, I don't want to hear it. And I have to emphasize, no, I have one title and I'm the gender equality expert. All women are experts. The other question that daily basis many of us are faced, that why International Women's Day? Why we don't have an International Men's Day? Let me answer the question, and I know everybody can answer it, but let's make it short. Women and being a woman is the most important political subject matter in the history of all of us. We are born political, our body is a political matter, our rights on our body and our rights to live and how to live is political. That's why we have to acknowledge International Women's Day. The first International Women's Day that I remember, well, you're gonna guess my age then, but I was 4 years old. March 8, 1979. A few weeks after the Islamic Revolution in Iran. I remember clearly that I was on the street with my mother, who is the champion of women's rights in Iran, being jailed and forced to exile in the past 20 years. And my grandmother, who ironically was having hijab by choice. And we were all marching to the street because just a few days before that, the new regime announced the mandatory hijab. I remember clearly while we were walking on the street in the demonstration in Tehran, the group of Revolutionary Guard been in front of us in huge trucks filled with stones and rock, and they were stoning us. They were stoning the crowd, women and children, and they were chanting one thing. An Iranian friend in this room knows what was that chant. Ya Rusari, Ya Tusari. Either you're going to put the hijab on, or we're going to beat you on your head. Fast forward, 44 years later, September 16, 2022. Mahsa Jina Amini was murdered in the hands of morality police in Tehran with the same slogan that I heard 44 years before on March 8th on the street of Tehran. Women in Iran and many other places and all over the globe, we live a daily war, a daily fight. I want to clarify one important thing today, because since September, wherever I go, I emphasize on we live under the gender apartheid regime. There is a difference between gender oppression, gender violence, and gender apartheid. Not that they're okay, no. The systematic gender violence, it's resulted to gender apartheid, which means Iranian women being deprived of right of divorce, right of custody, right of guardianship, right to leave their own land, to travel, book a hotel room, name it. Our blood money is half value of a man. Our witness statement is half the value of a man. We could not freely choose which field we want to study at university. And guess what? Still, with all those oppressions and control, over 65% of university seats are occupied by Iranian women. So we had that daily battle. Quickly, let me tell you about my generation. When we were going to school, school was not anything close to a safe place for a girl. It was a brainwash machinery system, a controlling system that from the moment that we were going in, we were under attack for one strain of her being out or not, how to talk, how to laugh, how to eat, how to walk, what to say. And we raised the middle of war. When we were going to school, we didn't know during those air attack time that if there will be any time, there will be a second time back home. And later we were grown up with no right for our life, but still the most important gender equality-based women-led revolution in the world started from Iran, and we have to understand the value of it, because we cannot drop the ball one more time for Iranian women and the women in the region, because I promise you, if we get to the end of this oppressive era for Iranian, the region will be a better place to live. Afghanistan will be a better place to live. Ukraine will be a better place to live. And the ripple all around the world, basically, for generations. Our friends, allies, like Canada, other countries, politicians all around the world, regardless of their partisan hats, basically. United Nations, all the human rights organizations, we cannot do it alone. And we cannot and we should not do it alone, basically. We are all women, and that's the thing that we have to emphasize on. All women suffers from one thing, gender inequality. And we will work it together. But let me tell you, in the past 6 months, the most important, I think, and the highlight of allyship all around the world, around one slogan, woman, life, freedom, change the dynamic and all the political discussions all over the world, and we have to continue it. If we don't see our women on the street today in Iran, it doesn't mean that we are not working. They are working. I want to assure you that the diaspora community now knows its own weight. We know now we can help. We know now that women of Iran, they can decide, they have to decide on their own, but we have to be their voices. We are working to establish the networks. We are working days and nights to make sure when the time comes, we are ready. We are ready to help our women in Iran and all over the world, and we need your help. Right now that we are sitting here, the systematic, chemical, psychological, physical, systematic attack is happening in Iran, all over Iran, in many cities and provinces against our schoolgirls. Over 26 schools have been attacked, and our girls are poisoned and transferred to the hospital. They want to make our schools unsafe for our girls because girls join the Women's Life Freedom Revolution. In November, the ripple of the revolution got to the schools, and since then, the attacks started. Today, before I come here, I realized that the UN issued an order for an independent investigation for this systematic attack. However, I want to, at the same time that I'm happy and appreciated, but I want to warn everybody that we are not going to ask the perpetrators to do the investigation. We have to be careful that who is going to do the independent investigation, how much the families are safe to provide the witness statements. The Ukrainian flight that all of us lost somebody in that flight, and your region is the most affected region in Canada, that we lost our kids, innocent kids in the sky. We cannot ask that criminal regime to do the investigation, so it's an international question. I want to appreciate you, all of you, for all you did in the past 6 months, for Iran and Iranian people, for the freedom of Iran. And I promise you that the world will be a better place when Iran becomes free. But our work is not done. We have to be able to work together to make that happen. And we owe it. We owe it after 44 years to our nation and to the international community.
Thank you so much. It's a huge honor to be here. And I know that it's been a year of a full-scale Russian aggression against my home, my beloved Ukraine. But I want to start a little bit earlier, just to give you a brief overview for those who maybe never been to Ukraine. I just want to show you a little bit of curtains open through my own life. I saw that one of the hardest days of my life was 7 years ago in October, when I was appointed as one of the youngest governmental official in the Ministry of Interior. The very next day when I woke up, all of the media and TV were covered with labels for myself, who didn't know anything about me, who didn't have any conversation with me, but they said that I was too young. I was too incompetent to do the reforms, especially reforms of law enforcement in Ukraine, and I was no one basically. There were other labels, but not for this audience, I would say. What I did is, the next morning I entered the building of the Ministry of Interior in Bogomoltsa. Jointly with my team, for the 1 year, we performed the very first comprehensive gender equality policy and adopted the resolution of 1325 for the Ministry of Interior, which has always been a very closed, male-dominated, basically police regime, I would say, very disciplined, but very boys club. We did it, and we became an example for other ministries of the government to replicate this model, to instill the status of gender equality advisors, to implement the new approaches and combating LGBT, supporting and empowering women to bring more women to the law enforcement and to open its doors and make it equal for everyone. 23rd of February 2022 was an amazing sunny day in Mariinsky Park, which is just in downtown of Kiev. It's a very beautiful place. I was walking with my baby boy. He was 9 months old, and we did the first swing. We were so happy. It was one of the happiest days of our life, and we were thinking that next day and the next day and every day we will come to this park and we will do the swings and slides and play together, because that's what mama and boy do. We came back, and many of you who have kids, you know that when you have a newborn, till evening you are so tired, like deadly tired, that you fall asleep and you can't wake up. On that night, I couldn't hear that my friend from National Police of Ukraine was insistently calling me. He was calling and calling, but I couldn't hear it. When I opened my eyes at 4:30 a.m., I saw lots of missing calls, and I saw only 2 words: "It started." We didn't discuss it, but I knew that the full-scale Russian aggression, Russian war against Ukraine started. The very next moment, I heard explosions. When I heard them, I was petrified. For a few minutes, I was petrified. I looked at my apartment, and my heart was full of anger, because I felt that no one can ever force me to leave my beautiful home, which I built with my own hands. The place where I was jointly with my people doing the reforms, solving the internal issues with my hands and with my desire to change this country, with young and passionate and smart and intelligent people who were around me. But I saw my baby waking up, and my heart was burst with love and heat, and I understood that I have to leave, because my home is the place where my boy isn't safe and where he can grow the personality he deserves to be. So that is how my journey started, how I fled from my home, and 30 hours in the car, 7 countries. Don't ask why, everyone has their own personal stories, but I'm here, and I'm very blessed to be in Canada. I'm here because it's a society where I feel that people share the same values. But you have to understand that I wasn't alone in this process. Almost 8 million people, women, because men are not allowed to leave country, with kids in their hands, fled from Ukraine without anything, with one backpack, running from their homes, which they love, which they adore. And what we did, the very next moment, actually, we realized that I'm not only mama, I'm not only woman who had to flee from home, but I'm also executive of the biggest nonprofit in Ukraine. And my team relied on me. 100 people in Kiev and more than 2,000 all around Ukraine want to continue to provide service to the most vulnerable. Before the war, it was 300,000 people who lived with HIV, tuberculosis, and viral hepatitis, including marginalized groups, to whom we provided a comprehensive response, including medical and social support. But now, how many? How many people are now in vulnerable groups, and who are those people who were internally displaced, who survived war and infection, who survived sex crimes? We continued the work. We increased our portfolio. We evacuated. We provided the comprehensive response to those who needed it the most. And we did in hybrid mode. COVID-19 taught us how to do it, right? How to do it effectively. And I was running my foundation from here. But I also want to say that was an example of self-leadership of so many people all around the world now. Ukrainian people who showed self-leadership and who showed that they are the role model for their kids. So what I understood is that it wasn't the hardest day that 7 years ago, and even the beginning of the war wasn't the hardest day. The hardest thing was to realize how to transform the pain in my heart into action. Because I don't believe that there is less or more grief for someone. Trauma and pain in heart hurts the same. For those who survived the war, for those who survived sex crimes, for those who lost the loved ones. But I think that the most important thing, what we can do to each other, as women to women, as men who support women empowerment, is what we can do to help to transform this pain in positive action. And actually, like flowers through the crack of concrete, you know how they blossom. You see this crack and you see the grass and flower, they persistently growing and growing. That's how Ukrainian women feel like. We want to regenerate and we want to create something full of life because we have our children, because we have our home and we know why we fight for. And we feel so blessed when we meet such people as you, because Canada was always with us, not from the beginning of the war that started in 2022, but in the history, throughout the reform process, throughout our revolution of dignity and many more. So I believe that my main mission now is how to unite with those 18 million women who stayed in Ukraine, unite with this sisterhood to support them because they need daily humanitarian aid for them, for their families, for their kids, but also how to not only give them fish, but also how to give them fish and growth. How we actually invest into the development of local initiatives for recovery of Ukraine. How do we actually support civil society, not international organizations only, but how do we invest in the capacity of human capital in Ukraine? How do we support those women who fled, who are now in Canada, to integrate into this society? Because those are the women with education, because those are the women with a professional background that can be a very big asset for Canada and Ukraine. And that is how we actually win-win. That is how we make Canada grow and Ukraine prosper, and jointly we move to the victory. Because that is how we stand jointly stronger, united, how we laugh through tears, and how we make it happen. Thank you so much.
I want to say, you spoke about the plant coming up through the cracks. And I'm thinking about the green, the color green. So International Women's Day, the colors are purple, white, and green. And purple stands for justice and dignity. Green stands for hope. And listening to both Lily and yourself, I think about the hope. You know, you're both speaking about when we triumph, when we're having a free society, when we're there, what we're going to do to work together, the rebuilding. And I think that hope is something we need, we have to hold on to, but hope without action is not going to manifest what we want. So we need to have the action as well. So thank you for sharing your stories. And again, last but not least, I'm turning to Malika Kimji. And I was thinking if this room was bigger, we'd have everyone sitting around the table sharing their stories. Because there's so many stories in this room to be shared and to be listened to. And that theme of every woman counts. But Malika is a woman who joined me in canvassing first, in working with us, and she was determined. She was like, I'm going to work in this office, and I see Malika as someone who's probably going to sit in this chair at one point. In our budget office, and Malika has her story to share too as a young woman, as an immigrant to Canada. And so Malika, I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning, York Region Liberal Caucus, Minister Ian, and distinguished guests. I would like to firstly start by thanking MP Leroy. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this Women's Day event. And when you say every woman counts, I can say you truly mean that. MP Leroy took a chance on me. I was just a student, and then I said, I'm going to work here. She took a chance on me, and thank you so much. International Women's Day. Let's just take a moment to ponder on what that means. Not long ago, women did not have the right to vote. Women were not allowed to hold positions in our government. Women could not even own land. But look at how far we have come today. And as a female Muslim immigrant, moving to Canada has given me many opportunities, such as to be a first-generation university attendee from my family, the chance to study politics and governance, and a chance to one day be a woman like many others in this room who can and are making vital changes. My parents have played a vital role in empowering me and my sisters as strong women. Additionally, my religion has also taught me the importance of women gaining an education and being a voice to contribute to the betterment of society. My parents gave up their well-established lives in Kenya for my sisters and I to have a life and opportunity in Canada where a woman's voice truly matters. And I would also like to just shout out to my mom because she was a huge advocate for us making the move coming here, and she is the one who has always encouraged my sisters and I and always said that you have to do something, you have to get an education, you have to make your place and not be afraid to have your voice heard, make space, right? So I grew up not seeing a lot of women in our governing bodies and decision-making positions, and it truly shows. I have always been an advocate for social justice, human rights, women empowerment, both locally as well as globally. I've had the privilege of volunteering in many countries such as Iraq, Tanzania, as well as in my home country, and I have had the opportunity to firsthand see how women truly uplift women. I hope to one day be in a position where I can help more women in more countries and in a bigger capacity. But I noticed that it is women who have got women's backs at the end of the day. Today there are various opportunities available to me and other women and girls around the world that were not present before. This was all made possible because women support women and women uplift women. However, we most certainly can use our voices and privileges to support and raise more awareness for the injustices that Indigenous women here in Canada are facing. 63% of Indigenous women have experienced violence and nearly half have experienced sexual assault. This is an important reminder to us that although we have accomplished a lot as women, our mission is not over yet and there's still lots to do and achieve. Together, us as women, we are a symbol of strength, perseverance, and power. We will not rest until every woman in this world gets a fair chance at life. As Michelle Obama once said, there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. Thank you, and happy Women's Day. And as Miriam said, happy Women's Day month here to everyone.
Thank you, Malika, and I don't know that I took much of a chance. I kind of saw that you'd be a great addition, and you have. And I just want to shout out this moment because I don't always remember, I'm not good at remembering this, but all of and it is mostly women in my office who support me, who support all women and people in our riding who are doing that frontline work. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do. And I just wanted, one thing that I thought of when another quote from Rosemary Down when you were speaking is, we must open doors and see to it that they remain open so that others can pass through it. And so I love the theme when you're talking about that, making sure that what we're doing now will enable the next generation. So,
Mayor, thank you. Thank you for the acknowledgement earlier. Thank you for being our technician this morning and making everything work, and for hosting us so well. The mayor said to me when we met in the hall, I said, congratulations, and he said, do you remember interviewing me? And I said, I do. Look at you now. Look at you now. It's so nice to see you again, your worship. I shall call you. This is a powerful caucus. What a powerhouse caucus. Mary, I know, has gone. Helena, I know, isn't here. But Majid and Tony and Francesco and Paul and Leah, my gosh, the things that you're doing, hosting this today is incredible. Incredible. It's my honor to be here. I said earlier, there are some places that I absolutely have to be, where I am told, you need to be here, you need to put this in your schedule, and then there are places I kind of just want to be really badly. This is one of the, I really wanted to be here really badly, and I'm so happy to be here. Our speakers, I want to address you directly. Anastasia, you know, I always say it's the young that shall lead us. It's biblical, but it's true. And I was struck by your story and the fact that you said, yes, they thought I was too young. And as I listened to you, I thought, she is young and powerful. And that's what people are afraid of. It's not the youth, it's the power behind it. So grateful that you're here. Looking forward to getting to know you better. What a story you have. But what I love so much is that it's not even about you, it's about everybody else. The work you do means it's about everybody else. And you're leading with such empathy and such passion. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Lily, you know, we met a little earlier and I was able to give you a quick hug, but you can tell a lot in a hug. You can, because it was one of those lingering hugs. And you can tell a lot. You have been unstoppable. Like, unstoppable, really. And I can tell, you know, you're not sleeping at night. You're not, you're working, you're helping, you're raising your voice. You are making us better and challenging us to be better, me to be better. Thank you. Gender equality expert is more than enough, but as I listened to you, I was thinking she's about 15 other things. There are a lot of things that I would describe you as being, Lily. Gender equality expert, you absolutely are, but so much more than that because of your incredible leadership. And maybe think about running again. I'm just putting that out there. I'm putting that out there. Don't give up. I know it was 9 years ago, but don't give up on that, okay? Last but certainly not least, Lika, and I was going to echo exactly what Leah said, that there was no taking a chance on you. Leah saw something, and she saw something very, very special. It takes courage to show up in an MP's office and say, hey, I'm going to work here. I'm a student. And shout out to Toronto Metropolitan. It is my alma mater, and I am also proud to have a TMU as part of my riding in Toronto Centre. I am here to say, great graduates from that particular university. But, absolutely. But I also say that you're exactly where you need to be. And I expect that you will be sitting in this chair, or in a provincial chair, or in a chair in Ottawa, sometime soon, and we'll all be sitting around saying, "Leave you her win," is what we'll be saying. "Leave you her win," and we'll all remember this day when she addressed us in this esteemed place. So this is one of those times where I have notes. You see a binder before me, and I had all these notes and things that I was going to say, and I think I'm going to say some of them, but I think I'm going to go off script because I like that a lot better. As I look around this room, and as Leah and my esteemed friends have pointed out, every woman counts is the theme this year. But can I just invite everybody to look around this room? Look at us. This is what Canada is. Look at the diversity in this room. And it's diversity in where we come from, it's diversity in age, it's diversity in experience, it's diversity in our life journeys. Look at this room. This is Canada. But here's the thing, and I might say as I glance back to my former career, here's the news flash. Women aren't just one big, homogenous group. This room reflects that. There are various life experiences that have to be acknowledged. And I agree. In a lot of cases, most cases, we have each other's backs. But as we look forward to International Women's Day, and I agree, there's so much more to do, it's about the work. That day is about the work, and it's about acknowledging the history of it, absolutely, Lily, and where you were at 4 years of age. It's where we need to be, how we get there together, what we can do better. It is all of those things. Paul knows this well. I guess I should be more formal, Paul, and say Jane, but I'm just going to say Paul. Paul knows this well because our friend, the Minister of Housing and Diversity and Inclusion, to send, always says that diversity is a choice, and Paul knows what I'm going to say. Diversity is not a choice, rather diversity is a fact, and that inclusion is a choice. And that's something that we cannot put aside when we look at women. I had some great conversations earlier. One of them was with Arden in this room. And we talked briefly about inclusion. Arden talked about, the job that she has now, the team that she has, the hospital system that she runs, about being a nurse beforehand. But she also said to me, and I love this so much, Arden, I understand the privilege that I have. If it was hard for me to get to where I am, I can only imagine what it's like for racialized women, people of color. And I said, Arden, it means a lot that you see that. So on that note, I'm going to tell you a little bit about me as I throw away my notes. I never, ever thought I'd be sitting where I sit with my fellow MPs in the House of Commons in Ottawa. Never. I am the child of immigrants who immigrated to Toronto Centre, interestingly enough, to St. Jamestown in the 60s from Trinidad and Tobago. They came to Toronto, my dad in particular, to go to school. My grandparents sold a little piece of land that they had in Trinidad, and they were able to send their eldest son to school. He got a shot at education. I ask my dad all the time, so why did you choose a cold country? I love this country so much, but I said, you're in Trinidad and you chose Toronto. Apparently, and I get the research skill set from him, he saw the opportunity in what Canada was, what Toronto was, and chose Toronto. So he and my mom showed up with my sister, who's 7 years my senior, and got a little apartment in the community that I now serve as MP. And it was hard. And they couldn't go to school at the same time because they couldn't afford it. So my dad went first. And when you come from that kind of background and then you choose a career like journalism with immigrant parents who it was really about you to get a really good job and it needs to be able to sustain you, and you're a woman, so teaching might be good. My dad was an educator. Teaching might be good. Nursing might be, right? I know, Malika's going, yeah, I know, yeah. Teaching, nursing, law, look at medicine, like all these different things. When I raised my hand and said, no, I really like journalism, and actually it was acting before journalism, and that had them really freaking out. I was like, who is this child that we have? I very much was going my own way in my own family, and it was my older sister who really stood up for me and said, she needs to carve her own way, Mom and Dad. And so I went through this life, and I'm going to fast forward, but I went through this life, went to Toronto Met, then Ryerson, and graduated and became a writer in a newsroom. And that's where I started to see that I was an only. I didn't see it in school, but I saw it in the workplace, where there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. In fact, it was kind of just me. And that meant something. As I reflect on this, and I do often, and think about what it meant, again, for all of the speakers here today, even back then, I knew it kind of wasn't about me. Wasn't. It was about who's next. And even at that age, I thought, if I don't do a good job here, if I don't out-research everybody here and make sure that I know what I'm talking about and ask really good questions and write really well, is anybody else going to get a shot? And that's what I was thinking about. So fast forward several years, and through those years, most of those years was with CTV, almost 30 of them. Good Lord, I'm old. Almost 30 of them. I reflect on that too, where that idea of being an only kind of became a thing, where I was the first Black person, Black woman in this country to co-host a national morning show. And then on the talk show that I was on, the Black woman on that panel, amongst my best friends in the world, but still that voice was unique, and there was a responsibility that came along with it. A huge responsibility. A couple things I want to talk about with regards to that. Because I don't know, I feel like I'm probably talking to some people in this room when I share this. So, being in a position where you have a microphone, because on a daily basis you have to think about how you use it. And in my mind, I was always hearing my dad, the beautiful man that he is, but my dad saying, make sure you play it safe. Don't rock the boat. Your mom and I, wanted you and your sister to have more and be more. So you've got a great pension. This is right. You've got a pension that you don't want to mess with. You don't want to push too hard. You don't want to say too much. Just do your job and do it well. But I wanted to say too much, and I wanted to push. And I wanted to rock the boat, and I wanted to do all those things. And it took me a while to do them, but I really did them. And I did them. There were so many times, and I don't share this often, but I figure, hey, I'm among friends. There were so many times in the pushing and rocking and talking about being a Black woman in this country, and a mom, and a sister, and a friend, and all of those things, where I got mail and email and tweets and all sorts of things that said things like, wow, we really liked it a lot better when you just read a teleprompter. Basically, shut up and read a teleprompter. We liked you a lot better when you were on script, not so much when you're off of it. And that's when I knew I hit a nerve and I had to keep talking and keep acting. It will be 3 years in May since George Floyd was killed. Many people ask me why I ran, and there are a couple of reasons. As I said at the very beginning of this, I didn't see this for myself. And if you'd asked me a couple of years ago where I'd be now, I probably would have said, producing a documentary, hosting something, writing something, not doing this. But I was sitting on a talk show talking about all of these things. Being Black in Canada, being a woman in Canada, glass ceilings, shattering them, breaking through, how we're not homogenous, that we aren't all equal, even as women, we're not. And I thought, what else can I do? Maybe it's because I was 50 and it was some sort of like crisis thing as well. But I thought, what more can I do? Am I serving in the way I need to be serving at this point? And it's interesting what you put out there, when you put that energy out there, because things can miraculously happen. So I got a call while I was thinking about all of this several months later, and the question was, might you consider running? And my response was, running where? You know, I prefer walking. I'm not a runner. And then I had to think about it because I thought the irony, but maybe not the irony. Maybe I need to be in an uncomfortable place because I had always interviewed politicians. I didn't see myself as one. And maybe this is the way the difference is made or continues. And so in the middle of a pandemic, I ran along with, I call her my sister and by-election bestie, Yara Sachs, in York Center. And we still call each other 99 and 100 because when Yara won in York Center, she was the 99th woman to take her seat in Parliament, and I was 100. Now there are 103 of us. Ms. Taylor. And it is really an experience of learning and leading at the same time, and understanding this place. Understanding, when I say this place, it's being a beacon of hope, but also the action, Leah, for women across this country, but around the world. As the three of you eloquently spoke to, around the world. As Leah mentioned, I will be heading to New York in a couple of days where I will meet along with a delegation, women, my counterparts, allies from around the world to speak to these issues, women's issues, which really are absolutely right, the most important issues. It is not lost on me that my ministry is women and gender equality and youth. The gender equality stands for all genders. You spoke to Mayor of the 2S LGBTQI Action Plan. The Prime Minister and I introduced that historic plan on August 28th last summer, and the work had begun before that plan, but it's important to name it and state it and say that this country is a country that is inclusive for all people. And that diversity and inclusion includes women, of course. It absolutely does. To wrap this up, and getting back to that every woman counts, I was walking down the street a couple of weeks ago, and actually I posted about this because it rocked me. A young woman came up to me and she said, Marci, and I kind of turned around and said, hi. And she said, hi. She said, you don't know me, but I want to thank you, and I'm trying not to cry. I want to thank you for being in the places that we're afraid to be. I want to repeat that. She said to me, in all of her maybe 20, 21 years of age, thank you for being in the places that we're afraid to be. Again, that's so not about me. But I say that because for everyone that is sitting here, every woman that is sitting here who walks into rooms where they don't see themselves, where they're trying to smash that proverbial ceiling, the C-suites, the small business world, as Mary talked about, the entrepreneurs, Fiona. It really is about having the courage to walk into unfamiliar rooms, whether you see yourself or not, and be resolved that your presence is going to change the temperature, that you're going to push no matter what, and do so knowing that you're making a difference for those beside you and frankly those coming behind you. Allyship, and I speak to my friends here, is so important. I am thankful for each and every one of you. I know most of your stories. I do. I know why you're here. I know how important it is to be inclusive and to be there for not just the women in your lives, but those that you serve. And thank you for doing the incredible work. It is such an honor to work alongside you. And Tom, if I'm right, because I'm just going to comment, like the incredible work that you're doing. Because we were together a long time ago, and we did have that interview a long time ago. And I know you, I know your story. So thank you. It says a lot that you're here, especially where you came from, and we're here. Leah, my gosh, the conversations that we have, and I will end on this note, for sure I will. We have a women's caucus, and Leah is obviously part of that caucus, but so much more. I cannot tell you about the representation that you don't see, that she may not share. But the questions that she asks, the action that she always takes, who she puts first, that idea that it is never, ever about self. It is about others, and thank you to your mom. Because I said to your mom earlier, I know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I know that, so thank you. And is just so inspirational. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the texts and the emails and saying, so Marci, can you come? What do you think? We've talked to your team, can you get here? Yes, Leah, yes, got here and wanted to be here. Thank you to every single person in this room. Again, to our speakers for sharing and digging deep and sharing of yourselves. And frankly, for holding me accountable and our government accountable to do that work and continue to do that work for you and for others in this country and around the world. Thank you so much. I shouldn't say this, but I will just say it. This has been the highlight and will be the highlight of my day.